can put them into these incubation boxes. And there's one out there that we just got some new media. We fill them with that media. This is the stuff. This is what we used last year, and it's just a synthetic media. They use these in scrubber stacks and smokestacks. And this size is the number 2 size. So, and actually, I printed out a list of what we purchased for the incubation boxes that I'll get you with the company that we got all this stuff from and everything. But this is the number 2 size, and it's actually a little bit big when you scale down to the number 1 size. So it's quite significantly smaller. But this worked pretty well. Peter Gray he said he didn't have any mortalities in his incubation boxes. He had about 100, I think about 100, 150 per side. So not horribly significant, but it would have been nice to not have that mortality. And he suggested that it probably was the size of the media. There was just too much interstitial space in there, and they were kind of crowded on top of each other, not able to. So we went with a smaller media this year. This stuff, because of its shape and everything, there's so much more interstitial space than gravel. So you could do it with stones and whatnot, but you wouldn't have nearly the space. We can put.
Yeah, the stone would take up a lot of the space. And this doesn't.
Yeah. What do you call these things?
These
plastic things
are they're just a synthetic. They call them polyethylene saddles, I think. So basically, these guys hatch, so we got about 6,500 eggs per tray, depending. And we just take the tray. We used this kind of sized mesh to separate the elevin and the eggs. We poured them through that mesh, and the elevin would come right down through the mesh, and the eggs would stay. So we separated them that way, kept the eggs in the incubation box in the deep trays there, and then just poured the elevin into these incubation boxes. So these were set up on the back side of these tanks. There was one here and one over there at the inlet. So the water would be coming in into the bottom here, and then coming up and flowing out of these flow arms into the tank. So it's awesome in the spring when they need to go on feed, because they do it by themselves. You know, they tell you they emerge out of the media like they would naturally in a red, and just you see them appear in the tanks. It's like magic, and they're ready to feed, so there's no question. It's a little terrifying pouring all of your fish into here and never seeing them. You don't see them at all until the temperature goes up in the spring and they're ready to emerge. So you don't know. You can't look at them and see how they're doing 5 times a day. You can't do any of that. And it was a little scary there. But once they started coming out, I think the first ones came out the last weekend in April. And it was just after that, the next day I came in and there were hundreds in the tanks. And it was pretty neat process. But it's zero work. Yeah. You put them in there and you don't have to do a thing until they emerge. You don't have to worry about them. The only thing we do on the back side, you can't see them from here, but there's another outlet right at the bottom. And the only thing we do is just open those up. We have a ball valve on those, and we open them up to help drain some of that silt, sediment, stuff like that, to the bottom of the boxes. And that's it. You don't have to guess when they're ready to go on feed. You don't have, there's none of that.
Kyle, is the egg sac all done before we put them in there?
No, these guys have only been hatched for a couple days when we put them in, so they're fully yolk sac.
They don't want to feed until they use that egg sac.
Yeah, I just
they're going to swim out of here.
what stage the fish was in before they put them in there?
Yeah, they're
Right out of hatch?
just hatched. And the whole idea is when you have, when you have these salmon in these stacks or in a trough or whatever, they're just, it's not natural, they're swimming all over each other. You open it up to pick out the dead ones or check on them or whatever, and they're swimming around. They're using all their energy swimming when they should be just hanging out. And we're kind of worried that they're gonna pop and it's gonna start healing. They're pricey, these things. Yep. So, we could probably manage up to 400,000 bar, 10 tanks. That density is pretty high, I think. What it's going to do basically is it's going to force us to stock the fish a little bit earlier. We use, I don't think we use the flake.
And this goes right out of
This will go right in the nose pipe. The nose pipes are plugged into our waste.
So there's no valve between here and there.
Nope. Yep, so we can, this is on the,
Yes,
so we can raise them on wherever. And we found out pretty quickly that even if the arm wasn't down, it would create a suction and totally drain the tank. So even if it was up like this, it would still sometimes create a suction.
That's why you have the plug.
So we had to
Suction brake.
keep a brake there. Luckily there weren't no fish in the tanks when we found that out. I was trying to get the flow really cranking and then realized as it's draining, because we didn't have them all rotating the same way, as it's draining, it's still draining. Even though it's spinning one way, it's still draining clockwise or whatever it's doing here. So if it's spinning counterclockwise, it's working against itself with the drain. So I did eventually change them all so they're all clockwise. I think it made a difference. You can tell.
Yeah, because Coriolis effect, it's going to actually add to the velocity anyway.
And there were fish that made these weird kind of eddies around the screen, and there were fish swimming like straight up because that's how the current is.
Just came in the large pipe, that's the drain from the filter?
The drain from the filter is actually underneath.
Bottom of the catch, okay.
That is concreted in.
All right.
See it down there? See the flange? That's where it comes in.
So
That's the escape.
yeah, that's the escape. This is where it comes in right here.
Okay.
So we'll get this closed, but it'll come in there. We'll close that, come in, and then the drain is actually underneath all of this, all the concrete. We weren't planning on putting this in here initially. We were planning on building a little addition right here for all the solids catch, and then they come out here, and this goes right into our our first settling tank, and then once that fills with water, because there's a lot of water going in with the solids. Once that fills with water, it'll overflow into the second settling tank, and then it'll come back in right here. This little hose right here is coming from the settling tank, and then it'll go back through the filter again, and then out to the river.
Did you get discharge permits for this from DMR?
Yeah, we've got to report to DEP every month. So we got to send water samples off.
You do have to send a water sample up there.